In this video, I'm going to be showing you 5 different unique and easy animation techniques that you can implement in your next projects. The last video I made about this got a lot of love and a lot of comments asking for part 2. So let's get straight into it. Our first animation is going to be this magnifying glass effect. This is a really useful animation, especially for those documentary edits. Once you're in After Effects, we need to import our assets. I downloaded this magnifying glass PNG from Vecteezy. You can get it from wherever you like, but I have a subscription for the site and I like using it for gathering my assets. I also downloaded this random newspaper article from Google to use as an example. Additionally, I want to mention that all of the project files and assets that I use in this video you can download with the link in the description below so you can follow along. The first thing I'm going to do is position the magnifying glass in the center of my composition. And make sure that the anchor point is also centered in the middle of the glass, not the layer itself. So press Y on your keyboard, which is the shortcut, and move it to the middle of the magnifying glass. Once you do that, create a new adjustment layer and apply a transform effect as well as the bulge effect. Then, make sure you're selecting your adjustment layer and using the pen tool, you can press G on your keyboard, mask out a circle exactly the size of the glass. Once you've done that, you're going to parent the anchor point and the position of the transform effect, so that's on the adjustment layer, to the position of the magnifying glass layer. You're then going to do the exact same thing for the bulge center of the bulge effect. And finally, parent the adjustment layer to the magnifying glass. Next, increase the scale value of the transform effect slightly. You can just copy my values if you want. And then set the bulge height of the bulge effect to 0.2. Then simply increase the horizontal and vertical radius to fill the glass. And just like that, if you've done everything correctly, when we move the magnifying glass, you can see that when you look through it, everything has been enlarged with that same warp effect, just like in real life. The second animation is this cool 3D card twisting effect. Now listen, this is not only useful just for a casino type of animation or a poker type of animation. You can create custom cards in After Effects with shape and text layers, as well as graphical elements, and make this type of card reveal for anything. You don't have to use a deck of playing cards. On the screen right now, I'm showing you some examples of these card animations in real videos. I think it's really cool and I see myself utilizing this in future projects. So once again, I went to Vecteezy to look for a deck of cards. The reason you want to download from websites like this is because it gives me a vector layer. I can open it up in Adobe Illustrator, take whatever I need, and when I import it in After Effects, the layer will remain high quality even when I scale it up. So once I download the cards that I actually want, when I extract it, there should be 3 total files inside. There's going to be a PDF, the actual image, and then a file that already opens up in Adobe Illustrator. So once you're in Illustrator, go to the bottom right and click this plus icon to create a new layer. Then open up layer 1, which contains all the cards, and simply select the one you want, and drag and drop it onto that new empty layer that we just created. And by the way, do not forget to rename your layers so you're organized. I will repeat this until I have 6 total layers. 5 cards is what I want, plus 1 which will contain the back version of the card. Once you're done with this step, go to File at the top left, Save As, on your computer, and just save it wherever you like on your PC, give it a name like Set of Cards, and click OK. Now I will go back to After Effects and import this Illustrator file. Make sure it's set to composition and layer size. Then press OK. Then go into the pre-comp and copy over all our cards into the main composition. You can ignore layer 1 and you can just delete the pre-comp, we don't need that anymore. Now this is very important. Make sure you check the middle button, the rasterize button, like I'm doing. This is what will ensure high quality when we scale up the cards. Just to show you the difference, here's how the card looks without this enabled. You can see that it's blurry, and when we have it turned on, it's much sharper. Anyways, simply resize and position the cards however you like. I'm using the Align panel to do this, and make sure the anchor point is centered for each card. Once you're happy with how it looks, we want to take the back of the card layer and place it directly on top of each card, exactly in the same position. So all you need to do is copy the position property of one of the cards and paste it to the position property of the back of the card layer. I'm just going to repeat this step until I've covered all 5 of my cards. So I'm just going to speed this up. Now make all layers 3D and pre-compose each card, including the back for each one. So each pre-comp should have two layers, the front of the card and the back of the card. Also, don't forget to make the pre-comp 3D and rasterize it. Now go into the pre-comp, move the back of the card layer behind the front, and change the Z values for each layer by 1. So set the front of the card to -1 and the back to 1. Now when we rotate it, you can see that we have two sides now. Then all you gotta do is repeat this for however many cards, how many pre-comps you have. Now I will just animate the rotation, then I will apply a preset from the Flow plugin. I am going to go into the graph editor so you can see what's happening. Basically, it will start slow, increase speed in the middle, then slow down again towards the end. And then we're just gonna have this smooth rotation. Alright, now for the actual twisting effect. I honestly recommend after this video that you watch the video that's up on the screen right now. It's from somebody else. I watched it, it's so in-depth. It explains you everything you need to know about the time displacement effect. He can explain it better than I can. Now, I watched the video, I understand it, but there's no point of me explaining it here because it's going to be long and I would essentially be copy-pasting his script. So I'm just going to show you what I did to get the twisting effect. First, you create a new solid, call it displacement map. Apply the gradient ramp effect to it, and then hide the layer. Then apply time displacement effect on your actual card, the layer you want the effect to actually have it, the twisting animation, and make sure to change the layer to the displacement map and the source to effects and masks. And then you're pretty much done, but we're gonna adjust the settings. So if I actually play this, you can see we have this twisting motion, and all I'm gonna do is increase the FPS to a big number, like 400, to make it smoother. It's going to take a bit longer. The higher you increase this, the longer it's going to take to render. And then I'm going to reduce this to 0.1. Now, again, really you should watch that video, but just to give you a little tiny summary, this gradient right here, what the time displacement effect is doing is it's displacing the layer over time, across time, instead of pixels like the normal displacement. The brighter areas, so from 50% gray to white, it's displacing the pixels forward in time, and from 50% gray to black, it's displacing them backwards in time. So when I hide this, there's a reason why the top or the bottom of my card is going first, because it's the brighter areas of the gradient ramp, and then the other part, which is displaced backward in time, is a bit delayed and it comes in. Okay, so if I reduce this to 0.1, you're gonna see, well, there's now less delay because I'm only displacing it 0.1 second forward and backwards in time. If that didn't make sense, honestly, don't worry. I highly recommend you just go watch that video. He explains it way better than I can. When you do this, you can even increase this to 480. You're pretty much done. We now have the twisting animation. For our third animation, this is going to be a quick way to enhance your shape layers. I'm going to show you how you can create these beautiful edge glow gradients just like in the animations I'm showing you right now. So first, create a shape layer. It doesn't matter the color because we will be applying a 4-color gradient effect and messing around with the points. So for this example, let's go with a blue theme. Another piece of advice, use this website called Coolers before editing. It will help a lot when choosing colors that look good together, and it's really important to keep a consistent color theme. Once you're happy with how your shape looks, duplicate it and rename it to Edge Glow 1. Apply the CC Light Sweep effect, set sweep intensity to 0, and make sure the anchor point is in the center of your shape layer. You can copy my other settings if you want, they are pretty self-explanatory, don't need an explanation, adjust it to whatever you would like, but also make sure light reception is set to cutout. Once you've done that and you're happy with everything, duplicate the layer again and just move the direction. Then create a new adjustment layer, apply the Deep Glow 2 effect to it. It's a plugin, check the description below for the download. If you already have it, you can copy my settings. I just reduced the exposure to a really low value and also adjusted the threshold and the threshold smoothness. Finally, you can animate the edge glows by simply keyframing the direction just like I'm doing here. And there you have it, a beautiful edge glow gradient. Now, have you ever had any moments where you had to appear a logo of some kind? It can literally be anything. Here's how you can turn it from very basic and boring to something cinematic like this. We will apply 3 effects onto our layer: CC Light Sweep, Bevel Alpha, and Noise HLS. For the CC Light Sweep, I'm going to increase the width, the sweep intensity slightly, not too much, and also both the edge intensity and edge thickness. For Bevel Alpha, this is a good effect for adding a little bit of depth. I'm going to increase the edge thickness to around 11. And finally, for the Noise HLS, it really depends on the icon or logo that you have, so this is not always going to be the same values. You can mess around with the lightness depending on how much grain you actually want to be visible. Just make sure the noise is set to grain and change the grain size to 0.5. Once you've done that, duplicate the layer, remove all the effects, and add a gradient ramp. Once again, you can leave the original colors, but depending on the icon or logo, changing the colors of the gradient ramp can give you a much better look. I'm going to do this with the ChatGPT logo after, so you can see what I'm talking about. Now technically, you are done. However, what if we have a light background? Say in your animation, you are using a white colored background or just something bright. We can add some really nice shadows. Way better than just a regular drop shadow. What you want to do is duplicate the layer again, remove all the effects, and make sure the blending mode is set to normal. Pre-compose the layer and apply the fill effect. Set the color to black. Then apply the CC Radial Fast Blur and increase the amount. Also, for this to work, this layer has to be at the bottom, so move the pre-comp under our other 2 layers. Now, when you move the center point, you can see you have these nice cast shadows. If you feel like it's too dark, however, reduce the opacity of the fill layer to reduce the strength of the shadow. And just like that, it's complete. But there's still more to it. If you're going to move this around or scale it up, just create a dedicated null object and parent each layer to that null. Then using the null, you can control the logo since all the layers will move together. Additionally, you can choose to animate the CC Light Sweep if you would like. Now, like I said, this works for almost any logo or icon. I've done the same steps with multiple different logos as you can see, but I didn't do it manually. With the help of ChatGPT, I created a JavaScript file that you can find in my Discord server. You just have to download it. This will allow you to simply click a button to automatically duplicate the layers and add all these effects. All you need to do is adjust the settings. So say you have a logo, like this ChatGPT one right here. I would go over to File, Scripts, Run Script File, and I would select the cinematic icon script that I've created. When you do this, the order might be messed up. It pushes the layers down, so it might be behind your background if you have one. Like for me, it was behind the white solid. So all I have to do is reorganize and adjust the settings. So I'll mess around with the grain, I'll reduce the lightness, I will change the right color to black of the fill layer, and I will change the colors of the gradient ramp. And you can also change the color of the CC Light Sweep. But yeah, that is it for trick number 4. For the last animation, it's going to be these 3 different methods of making paper textures, which is so useful, especially for those documentary edits, or even if you want to show some analytics or newspapers. Like, there's just a lot you can do with paper, and honestly, the first method is really cool. You can save it as a preset once you're done, so you only really have to do this once. If you care about how I actually set up the scene, the textures, the composition, I will go through it at the end. So first, create a normal shape layer. I will simply create a rectangle, and then apply the gradient ramp effect to it, and you can just copy my settings. All I'm doing here is adjusting the colors. You don't have to do this, this has nothing to do with the paper effect. Once I'm done with this, I will apply Noise HLS, switch it from uniform to squared, and just copy my settings. The third effect you want to apply is roughen edges. Increase the border to a value around 50, change the sharpness to 10, and complexity to 5. This is what actually gives us that ripped paper style. Feel free to adjust the settings. You don't have to copy me exactly, you can mess around with it until you're happy with the look. Now I'm going to add a drop shadow just to add some depth to my scene. Next, create a new solid and rename it to Fractal Noise Map, then apply Fractal Noise to it. We are going to use this to create a realistic paper tear texture on our shape layer. Increase the contrast to a value between 1300 to 1400, and increase the brightness to a value between 400 to 450. Then reduce the scale to a very low number like 4, and increase the complexity to 20. So as you can see, we basically created this custom texture, and now all we have to do is track matte the original layer to this fractal noise map. When you do this, make sure you press this button to change it to a Luma matte, or else nothing will happen. Finally, apply fractal noise to the actual paper layer itself, change blending mode to overlay, and increase the scale. And boom, we now have this very cool paper texture. So before and after, clear transformation. For method number 2, I want to show you how you can animate this corner paper fold. All you need to do is add the CC page turn effect, change controls to classic UI, and set the back page to none. You can then adjust the settings, set the paper color, the fold direction, radius, all that stuff. Once again, you can just copy me if you want. Now to animate, which is the coolest part and also very easy, you just need to alt-click the stopwatch of the fold position and add this simple wiggle expression. The values between the brackets will dictate the frequency and strength of the movement. The first number is the frequency, so how many times the property wiggles per second, so 5 would mean 5 times per second, and amplitude is the maximum amount of change in the properties unit, meaning how much it's actually moving, the strength of the movement. So the higher this number, the more dramatic the movement. But yeah, that's really it for method number 2, really easy. For the final method, it's really about showing you how to make one side of the paper have the tear effect and the rest be untouched. So here's what you do. Select your shape layer, grab the pen tool, you can press G on your keyboard, and make sure you click this button up here to create a mask. Now we want the right side to have this tear effect. Create a mask like me. Using the pen tool, just custom make the cuts, copy what I'm doing exactly. Once you're done, just duplicate that layer. Now invert the mask. You should have 2 layers in total. One with the mask inverted, and the other one is just the paper tear, that right side. And then add the roughen edges effect and copy my settings. Now select the duplicated layer and fix the mask like I'm doing here. Just take the points and make sure these spikes are invisible, so we no longer should see them on the second layer. Once you do that, move the left side slightly to the right so we fill in this gap. I'm not going to cut anything out, you're going to see me do it here. And now you're basically done. You can move these mask points around to create a different look. You can adjust the roughen edges, and that's basically it. You can also apply the same fractal noise that we applied to the first shape layer from before. Now, just like I promised, here's how I set up this entire scene where I got all my assets in case you were curious. To start, we have this US flag. And if I go into my pre-comp, you can see I also have a texture on top of it. So where did I get all of this from? The US flag, I got it from Vecteezy. I just searched up vintage American flag. And then I applied a sandy texture on it. So if we go here, I think it was this one right here. Yeah, I downloaded this and then we went back into After Effects. And then I applied the same texture and I just duplicated it, changed the blending mode to multiply. And that's what kind of gave it this sandy feel. So if I just hide this texture, you can see, or actually no, the sand texture is right here. This is the sand texture, okay? So you can see the difference. I also have an adjustment layer with the CC vignette. This was another 2 textures that I got. So if we go here, I got this grunge texture and as well as this medium small speckles texture. And I just added it again on top of my flag. I also reduced the opacity to 50%. Then we actually have the board. So the actual crime board texture, I downloaded it from Vecteezy once again, right here. And I applied a hue and saturation effect. So if we go back to After Effects, hue and saturation effect, just to change the color a bit. So it was this originally, then I changed it to that. Then we have the United States country outline, like on the world map. Just searched that up, added the fill effect, changed the color slightly, so the before and after. And obviously we changed the blending mode to soft light. Also the sand texture, the blending mode is set to soft light. Then we have the stroke, which I custom made in After Effects. I just used the pen tool to make the stroke, but I did add a texture to it, which again, I got from texturelabs.org. So this wood texture right here, I downloaded it, went back into After Effects, and then I track matted the wood to my stroke layer, and again, applied the hue and saturation to change the coloring slightly. And then finally, the last bit of detail, we have these inner shadows where again, I used the stroke, literally just made a rectangle, like the size of this, with a stroke of 5 and applied the fastbox blur. So if I just remove the fastbox blur effect, you can see the difference here. When I enabled this, we have a little bit of shadow, and then I did it again, and boom. Just that depth, really adds to it. If you want to learn 5 more techniques, then be sure to check out part 1. If you found this video useful, please consider subscribing and leaving a like, as well as let me know in the comments what you want to see next, what you learned, or if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching.